Evening, all.
Evening, everyone. John and Paul here. I just want to say before we start, so when Trump first come on the scene, what did I personally think of him? I didn't like him when he wasn't the president. I just never liked him. He wouldn't be a guy, but I ended up liking him when he was president because of some of the stuff he was saying and wanted to do. And he was going against, I felt like he was going against the Democrats really in a big way. He opened up a lot of can of worms and stuff like that. And I have to have respect for him. And when he said he was going to do something, he tried so hard to do that something. He never said he's going to do it, then didn't talk about it. And I can respect that because we don't have any politicians in Great Britain who do as they said, do we, Paul?
No, in Britain, the politicians are controlled. They're answering to other people. They're not answering to the electorate. When Trump first emerged, I mean, I'd known about Trump. He was a playboy, wasn't he? An international playboy. He was a very wealthy man. He was a billionaire. He was like the Prince of New York City. And I remember he met Jerry Adams, the IRA leader. And that sort of disturbed me a little bit. But he met everyone effectively. And he was very popular with the black population of America. All the black artists loved to go and visit him and get the photos with him. All the newspapers, all the Jews in New York, the Chuck Schumers and all that, they'd all go. He said they all used to come to see him on bended knees. He was the toast of New York, toast of the media. Then came Barack Obama, and he didn't like Obama. He didn't. Well, Trump, first of all, had stood against the war in Iraq. He said it was an unwinnable war. It was going to be a waste of money. It was going to be a waste of American lives. It was just going to cause chaos in the Middle East. Nothing good was going to come from it. He said, the best just leave it alone and keep out of it. And that's when I first woke up to Trump, because he made me realize that there was something wrong in this Bush strategy. There was no weapons of mass destruction. And the whole thing was very dubious. There was no real reason to invade Iraq. It was just to get rid of Saddam Hussein. Maybe they were after the oil, but it was a power play. And Trump had become aware of the military-industrial complex. We're going to hear a lot about that tonight, John. These are the people who thrive on war. In America, they're called a Uniparty because they get all the donations from the big military companies, and by going to war, they requisition trillions. I'm talking about trillions of dollars from the American budget to pay for these wars. And they pay off the media. They get the media behind them. So the media were full square. I mean, there is questions about 9/11, isn't it? What was that all about? Because just before it happened, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, said a serious terrorist outrage in America would be to our advantage. We could use that. And the American Secret Service, the deep state, the CIA, the FBI, they knew the guys who blew up the Twin Towers. They allowed them to operate. They could have stopped that at any moment. They knew these guys were in training to become pilots. And so the whole thing had a stench about it. There's something wrong. There was something rotten in the state of Denmark, as Shakespeare put it, but in the state of America, there was something didn't add up. And Trump was putting his finger on it. And Trump was not a member of the Uniparty. He couldn't be bought. He was a populist. He wanted to resurrect America, make America great again. And he spoke direct to the people. He wouldn't bow the knee to any of the special interests. The American Israeli Public Affairs Committee, don't know if you've heard of that, John, AIPAC.
Yeah.
They control both sides of the House of Congress. They finance every candidate. And if anyone goes against them, they withdraw their finance and back their opponents. Trump didn't need their money. He didn't want their money, so they couldn't influence him. Now, Trump had been around a long time, and he'd been a very successful businessman. His father was just a small operator in New York City, in the housing market. Well, not a small, but by New York sizes, he wasn't a major player. Trump had become a major player in Manhattan. He'd become an international property developer. He was a multi-billionaire. And yet he took on Obama, and he didn't like what Obama was doing to America. He smelt a rat. He knew that Obama was anti-American, was against traditional America, against traditional Christian values, and that Obama was a danger to the well-being of the American nation. He was gonna, and he saw that Obama was going to cause strife, going to set community against community. He was going to cause strife in America. Trump didn't like it. Trump he's a bridge builder. He brings people together. He seeks the commonality in all people. I mean, the Democrats always accuse him of being a racist and whatever, but Trump has always held out the hand to anybody, from Mexicans, African Americans, all different groups. He's embraced them all. And he said, you know, we're all Americans and we want to build an American together. It was a very positive message that Trump had. But they tried to say that he was a trouble cause, he was negative, because they couldn't control him. He wouldn't bow the knee to the vested interest. That's all that was about. And then, miracle of miracles, 2016, Trump wins the presidential election. I mean, first of all, he got the Republican nomination, and then he won the election. Remember when he took down Jeb Bush, and he blamed Jeb Bush for these wars, said they're not in our interest. And he accused the Bushes of lying about the weapons of mass destruction. They took us into war on a false premise, and the Republican establishment never forgave Trump for that, because he exposed them. He called them liars, which they were. We all know they're liars. But anyway, I thought Trump was an incredibly successful president. He cut taxes. The economy was booming. He made America respected on the world stage again. The Chinese deferred to him. He said the Mexicans will pay for this war, and he got them. He got the Mexicans to send 20,000 troops to the border to stop people walking across the American border. It was America. It was amazing. Trump, everything he touched, he had the Midas touch. It turned to gold. And then in 2019, we started to hear of this. Something was going on in China, a plague. Now, we're still not allowed to discuss this on social media. I mean, if we mention it now, this video could be taken down almost instantly. So we don't mention it. But anyway, it was a wrecking ball to Trump's presidency, and I think it was deliberate. And it was very difficult to know how to handle it, what the reality was. And they used it to not only freeze the economy, Trump's successful economy, but to change the voting laws in America and go from a turn up and vote on the day, count on the day elections, the traditional elections, to postal votes, which allowed operators to farm these votes and allowed the manufacture of millions of phony ballots. And still, Trump was very successful in his campaign. I mean, Joe Biden didn't even campaign in 2019. He stayed in his basement. The 2020 presidential election, Trump was rampant, and his vote went up from 67 million to over 72 million. Something like that, 61 to 72. But it was a huge surge in Trump's vote. He was very, very popular, and he was winning. And remember, on the night of the election, they were counting the votes. Trump was streets ahead in key states like Pennsylvania. He won Florida. He won Texas. He won Ohio. He was romping it. And then, in the early hours of the morning, and they think it was Jill Biden now who made these phone calls, the counting was stopped. I'd never known that in any election. And I've been involved in elections for decades. They stopped the count in the early hours of the morning for various reasons. In Georgia, they said a pipe had burst, so they had to stop the count, but that was all fiction, apparently. And during this time, when the count was stopped, the people who were supervising the count were sent home, and ballots were brought in minibuses, which were never supervised. I've never been verified. I've no chain of ownership. And suddenly, all the ballots were going for Biden. And vote Trump, instead of being streets ahead, when we woke up the next morning in the key states, he was suddenly behind. It just didn't seem real. And this is the whole stink. This and there was a huge article in the Time magazine a year later which showed how this election was rigged. The fast alliance that was created to bring in these votes. But the courts in America would not hear the cases. And the Democrats always say that Trump lost 60 odd cases. The truth is, 57 of those cases were not allowed because the people bringing the charges were deemed of insufficient standing. There was no investigation. Bill Barr okayed the election without an investigation. There was no investigation. There were no real court cases. Eventually, there was only 3 court cases, 2 which Trump won. So we've reached the point now where next year we're going to have a rerun of the 2020 presidential election. Trump against Biden. But Trump is streets ahead. Biden is not only a spent force, he's a lame duck. Everyone knows he's senile, he's useless, he's a liar, he's a criminal, he's been taking bribes his whole career. He's just a complete rogue. He's a waste of space, and he's making a mess of America. You've got rampant inflation. They're losing the war in the Ukraine. They've spent hundreds of billions on this war in the Ukraine. They've got nowhere, and they're just getting bogged down. It's a bit like a new Vietnam. So Biden is going to be deeply unpopular, and he's going to lose to Trump, like he lost in 2020, but they're determined, the deep state, to stop this. They will not allow Trump back in the Oval Office for one very obvious reason. He will expose them. He will stop their gravy train, because that's all it is, really. Everyone's on this gravy train of milking the Washington, D.C. state.
Well, Paul, before you continue, I mean, there is a bit, there's a lot of people in England who don't like Trump or who like Trump. Someone said in the message about him supporting Israel, and there is other issues that people have with Trump. But again, what I liked about him was the fact that when he said something, he didn't come back on it. Every politician I know in the UK, they say something, they'll get in. And Keir Starmer, when he was the last general election, he put all these things down and then he sacked them all. He's not running, he's not supporting them. That's what our politicians are like. So it was really refreshing to see a politician in the world who wasn't so much controlled like Biden was and all that lot. And the big thing about me was the vote of North Korea. So North Korea were playing up and all that lot. Trump sorted that out in a couple of weeks, and you've heard nothing since about North Korea. It was just the Western media playing into the game by making look like North Korea were bad. And I'll tell you what, if Trump were in, I bet there would be action against North Korea now if he didn't, calm it down. He's also said that if he gets him as president, within 48 hours, there'll be no Russian and Ukraine stuff going on. That'd all stop. And he said that. He was right. He one of the things that I liked about him was when he said he wants to ban certain people coming from certain countries, and everyone called him a racist. But all these countries were breeding terrorists to come to the West. And even before Trump come in, that's what the terrorists in the Middle East was saying. Immigration, we're going to send people over. We're going to send people over. So he did the right thing. And in 2017 in Manchester, outside St. Peter's Square, I said with my megaphone, I want a Trump-style ban on people so we don't get terrorists coming to our country. That's what I said. And, I didn't have no qualms about what I said. And when I said that in St. Peter's Square, it were empty. The next minute, everyone was surrounding me or wanted to attack me. And I still held my ground and went on that. And if our immigration were in such a mess, we wouldn't be in the trouble and we wouldn't have had half the terrorist attacks we had. But, you know, it was refreshing to see a world leader go against the norm. I know people have issues with him supporting Israel. I get it. I'm not the perfect person. Some people are going to have issues with me, you know what I mean, or whatever. But, you know, it was really refreshing and I like that. Unfortunately, a couple of things came out bad on it when they said about the insurrection, and there was a woman killed who stormed in, Ashley Beebe, and absolutely nobody talked about her. She was ex-forces. She was shot and killed. She weren't armed or anything, and nobody mentions anything about it. You know what I mean? And she weren't a threat to anybody, and she was killed. I'll never forget that, you know, and that's what the establishment did afterwards, and it's wrong. And he was calling them out for the right reasons, but the media around it, when he said he wanted to build the wall, everyone's going on, you're a racist this and a racist that. And the fact that when Hillary Clinton was a senator, she was demanding the wall be built. And they tried to put things on him like he was causing kids to be split from the parents and all that lot, when in effect that had already been going on before he was president. That happened in Obama's reign. Also, what we know, that during Obama's reign, he started that many wars in the Middle East and conflicts, and when Trump came in, he practically stopped them all. And Obama had dropped more ordnance weapons and bombs than any president ever. And when Trump came in, all that stopped. And I seen Muslims saying that if Trump says that he's going to pull out the Middle East and stay away from all that, then this Muslim will support him. That's what I seen on social media. So, you know, he was getting on everyone's side. He was helping everyone.
The thing is, yeah, Trump was a peacemaker, and we had the longest period of peace, really. But you see, the war party in America, the Uni Party, the military-industrial complex, it doesn't want peace. We now realise that. They're even edging for war with China now. So what's behind all this indictment that's taking place against Trump, all these cases? Because they're coming thick and fast. And he's been charged with taking documents. But as the president, he could decommission any document he wanted. I mean, Obama took 2 million confidential documents, when he left the White House. And he was asked for them back, and he said he was going to create a library to put them in, but he's never done that. They still haven't been put into file. But the thing is, every document in the Washington, D.C. and the government becomes confidential. You know, just what tea the president drinks or what food he eats, that's all confidential. So it's a real red herring, this thing that he took confidential documents. It's absolute nonsense. But they found sort of hidden laws to say that he couldn't do this, or that it only had to be done under certain conditions, which he didn't fulfill. It's all a hype. It's all contrived to try and get these cases going. Now, the second case says that he was guilty of insurrection. Well, it doesn't actually say that, because he was not guilty of it. No insurrection took place. Insurrection involves an armed uprising. There was a bit of a mini demo. That's all it was, a demo outside the Capitol House. And they now know that the FBI were in the thick of it, that Nancy Pelosi had told the police to invite them into the Capitol building to make them trespass, and then she could charge them. It was all a conspiracy. And Trump called for peace. He called for a peaceful demonstration. But what he did was challenge the legitimacy of the election. And Mike Pence has given something away really big this week, as Pence has said Trump wanted him, as vice president, to send the results back to the states to be checked again. Now, Pence didn't do that. He okayed the results, But by saying that Trump asked him to do that, he admitted that he could have actually done it as vice president. It wouldn't have been an insurrection or a coup. He had the legitimate right to challenge the results. So what the Democrats are doing really here, they're declaring war on the Republican Party, on traditional America. They're saying that free speech is no longer valid. You cannot criticize the election results. That's the First Amendment. They're trying to nullify it. And they're also saying that elections can't be challenged. But we know if you don't challenge elections, you see, in America, there's been iffy things going on in elections for a long time. When JFK was against Nixon in 1960, apparently then the mafia and union bosses were involved in stuffing the ballot boxes and in illegally collecting, ballots. It was Illinois should have gone to Nixon, but because of fraud, it went to JFK, and it was Illinois that won JFK the election. Nixon should have got elected in 1960, and of course, I remember when Bush was up against Gore. Remember that, George Bush against Al Gore in the year 2000, and there was a huge dispute in Florida about what the legitimate result was in Florida, and it went to the courts, and there was accusations and counter accusations, and of course, Trump himself in 2016. The Democrats brought out the Russian hoax. They challenged the results and said that Putin was behind Trump's victory. So to simply challenge election results, it's not a crime, and yet he's being charged as if it's a crime. And what has happened is that the Democrats have weaponized the whole judicial system in America. They put their people in positions of power as attorney generals, not normal Democrats, but radical revolutionaries. This is a revolution that's taken place in America, a woke revolution, a color revolution. I don't know if you know Ukraine, when it was the government was overthrown in 2014 in Ukraine, the legitimate government. It was by a guy called Norm Eisen, and it was called the Orange Revolution. Norm Eisen is a New York Jew who was a friend of Obama's, who has developed this way of operating called color revolutions. So in one nation, it's a purple revolution. In Czechoslovakia, Czech Republic now. In the Ukraine, it was an orange revolution. Somewhere else, it's a crimson revolution. There's a revolution taking place in America now. The Democrats are trying to undermine the democratic system in America to make elections fraudulent so that the Republicans can't compete anymore. They're trying to stop Trump from standing. They're tying him down in legal cases. It's called lawfare. They're actually tying him down in court cases. You see, the state can finance endless legal cases. Trump's got to finance his defense. It's costing tens of millions. Trump's time is being tied up now in legal issues. He should be campaigning. He's campaigning to win a presidential election. This is an interference in the electoral process. It should be illegitimate. The Supreme Court should step in and stop all of this, but they won't. They're keeping out of it because it's too partisan. You see, what's happened, the Democrats have weaponized the legal system in America and turned it against the Republicans. And it's like a takeover. It's like a revolution taking place. And the Republicans have got to rise to this because the Democrats have got an agenda to overthrow traditional America. They're bringing in tens of millions of immigrants from Latin America across the Mexican border, from all over the world. They're coming in to transform America demographically. This is the replacement of the traditional American population with a third world population, which the Democrats can control. They've allowed spending by the American state to run amok. Biden now has borrowed trillions. America is in huge debt. Now, this is one of the reasons why America is becoming weaker, because the burden of this debt is so big. But they've also got this woke revolution as well, John, and that's really important. Have you heard of ESG?
No, don't ring a bell.
Environmental, social, and corporate governance. ESG. It's happening in this country. It's about the corporation. This is why you see all the people like Starbucks or Costa promoting transgender, promoting LGBTQ, whatever it is. All these agendas, it's because of ESG, environmental and social corporate governance. And the guy who's really masterminding all this, a guy called Larry Finks. Have you heard of BlackRock? BlackRock.
Yeah, won't be a minute.
Yeah, no problem, John. I'll just carry on talking. BlackRock they own $10 trillion worth of stock. They own all the big corporations, and they're making sure the corporations push the LGBTQI, whatever it is, agenda. They push transgender, they push the gay issues, and they push critical race theory. Suddenly they have an enemy, and the enemy is the white heterosexual Christian male. We are to be overthrown. They want to overthrow our traditional Christian culture and replace it with a woke culture, which is anti-family, anti-life. It's militantly pro-abortion and killing preborn children. It's feminist to the core in a strange way, because it's also transsexual, which sort of undermines the notion of man and woman full stop. So as a man can become a woman can become a man. It takes us into what was called the clown world. Everything that we took for granted becomes plastic. We don't understand anything anymore. But the outcome is you get chaos, and they're playing with our kids' minds. They're bringing this into education in schools. They're saying to kids, are you sure you're in the right body? You're a girl. Did you want to be a boy? And then they're promoting all sorts of sexual perversity. And then, of course, the race agenda. Suddenly, white people are portrayed as the oppressors, and other peoples are portrayed as victims. And do you want to be with the oppressor, as Coke said, and other things? Be a bit less white, Suddenly, being white is has negative connotations, and this is an attempt to totally warp and undermine society. Another one is, of course, toxic masculinity. Just being a man now is questioned. Being a father figure, the traditional family, it all comes ultimately from cultural Marxism, which went to America in the 1930s, and it's becoming the dominant ideology of the Democrat Party. It's like culturally Marxist now, but it's even more radical than the cultural Marxist that came out of Germany. It's not even Marxism. It's almost nihilism. It's about the destruction of our civilization. And this is why they hate Putin so much, because Putin stood against all this. Putin has outlawed transgender surgery and transgender promotion in Russia. He said it's an absurdity and it's dangerous and it's perverse and he doesn't want it. Putin has maintained, traditional Russian society. He's promoting the church. He's saying the church, the Russian Orthodox Church, is part of the identity of being a Russian. And it's the bedrock on which the Russian family and the Russian nation is built. So he's promoting traditional Christian values. He's promoting the family. He's saying a family is a father and a mother. They stay together to raise children, godly children. And this is Putin's agenda. And he's saying that he wants Russian women to have more children. He wants couples to stay together and raise the children to be respectful. He wants traditional education. He wants people to do well and prosper. And he wants the Russian nation to grow in strength. This is why they're at war with Russia. It's nothing to do with territorial issues. They don't like the fact that Russia is resisting the woke ideology, which through ESG, environmental, social, corporate governance, is being promoted around the whole Western world and is bringing down the Western world. It's bringing us down. It's undermining everything that we value. And of course, another aspect of it is uncontrolled mass immigration, the dispossession and replacement of the traditional population with a third world population. We're seeing this in country after country across Europe. And of course, next year, 2024, there's going to be elections in the European Union. And in these elections, the nationalist parties, such as the Alternative for Deutschland, Forza Italia, you know, the brothers of Italy, Marine Le Pen in France, of course, the Polish nationalists, the Hungarian nationalists, the Spanish nationalists. They're all on the march. They're all gaining momentum and votes. And so Europe's going to become much more nationalistic in 2024. There's the presidential election in America, and this is what the Democrats are trying to stop: a populist candidate. They're trying to stop Trump. They're doing everything they can, legal and I would say illegitimately, to stop Trump. But Trump remains deeply popular in America. You see that any rally he has, it's sold out. The MAGA movement is healthy in America. It's growing. People in America don't like Biden. They don't like the direction that Biden is taking the country, and they're pushing back against it. And so the Democrats are using foul means to stop Trump. And they've got allies in the Republican Party. This is the problem. The likes of Bill Barr and Mitch McConnell are part of the Uni Party, what we talked about earlier, the military-industrial complex, which is a donor party. They're all paid off by big business to do the will of big business. And this is to fight wars. Trump realizes this is ultimately damaging America, just as the massive debt that the Democrats are accumulating is damaging America. So 2024, John, this is what I've been focusing on. 2024 is going to be a pivotal year. There's big elections in the European Union. There's big elections in America. And also in this country, there's going to be a general election. It's going to be a hot year politically next year. And we've got to rise to this challenge. I mean, this is why parties like the National Housing Party matter, because we can raise the issues that other people don't mention. I mean, you talked about Trump being an honest politician. We don't have honest politicians in Britain. They're all party politicians. You could tell that when Andrew Bridgen left the Tory party and suddenly he started talking sense, because he was no longer a party politician. They have control of the process, and we need the people's voice to be heard again. Now, John, how are we going to get the people's voice out in Britain? How are we going to challenge the elite, the dominant political class, and give the people a say again and save this country? Go on.
Well, one thing I've said is we've got to call them out publicly. So hustings, general election hustings and stuff like that, we've got to be there in force and get them difficult questions called out, because no one's done it in the past. We've just been, oh no, it'll be all right, I'll just go and listen a little bit. What I find about the general election hustings is they pick which, in Batley, when people are running Batley, so GETTR ran in Batley, Anne-Marie Waters for Britain ran in Batley, and when they had a hustings, they just picked a couple of them and didn't pick GETTR and Anne-Marie. Now, I want a rural place. If we have an hustings, you have to invite every candidate. You know what I mean? You can't not. And so, as a member of the public, I'm going to go to hustings. If they don't invite every candidate, I'll have a. How come you haven't invited every candidate? I'll film it. You should be inviting every candidate and not ignore candidates because they have a different view. And it's, you know, these little things will change how things go. And I'm going to push for that as a local councillor and a politician. You know what I mean? That's what I'm going to push for. And we've just got to keep doing it, lobbying people like we talked about before, to get this sorted out. You know what I mean? It's just wrong. You know, like if you're in a workplace and you had a meeting about the workplace, you invite every department. You don't ignore a department because, like, you think it's irrelevant. You don't ignore the transport department because they don't do the work on the garment. You've got to invite every member, every section, every department within your workplace to the big meeting. You can't not work like that now. But our politicians, oh no, we don't like that person because we think they're far right. We don't like that person because they're too far left. We'll not invite them, but we'll just invite these people. And I'm a massive critic of it, and I've seen it in Batley, Oldham, and it's enraged me, Paul. It's enraged me. So that's
what we have, John, it's obvious what we have is gatekeepers, right? There's people who are being appointed to decide who can speak, what voices are acceptable, and which ones aren't. And they've made it taboo to talk about things like immigration, to talk about things like demographics and the change of our culture, the loss of our culture in our nation. They've made it taboo, and they control the media. I mean, you try and get on the media to challenge on these issues, and you'll never get on the BBC. LBC has been taken over by corporate left. What I talked about before. Remember those three initials, John? ECG, environment, social, corporate governance, because it controls the media as well. It's all integrated horizontally. The media, the political parties, the state, the Secret Service, the police, the health service, they all work together to exclude patriotic voices. We, the British people, are being excluded from our own national debate. And this is why the social media is our hope, because this is the only real forum where we can get the message out now. I mean, when I was involved in earlier parties, we used to have newspapers and stuff, but nobody reads newspapers anymore. But we have over 32,000 followers now on our main Twitter account, the National Housing Party. There are other parties, patriotic parties, that have even bigger Twitter accounts. But those 32,000 that are following us on Twitter, and there's more because they're on other Twitter accounts as well. That's a big constituency that we can speak into, and they can echo what we say. Now, I've noticed that Facebook has gone a bit dead now politically because it's been censored for so long that people have almost given up on it. But Facebook should really be another vehicle by which we can get serious debates going. And then, of course, we're on YouTube and there's Rumble. Trump's got his own one, hasn't he? Truth Social. But we need these social media outlets to make an impact. But we've got to get organized as well. We need political parties. Now, the National Housing Party has been going for how long now, John? Over a year, isn't it? You're muted there, John. You're muted. A year and a half. You know, we've got scores of members now. We've got a network of people right across the social media. As I say, 32,000 on the Twitter account. We need more members and more candidates. We're standing at the moment locally. We're making an impact locally. We're getting involved in local campaigns and raising local issues around housing and allowed. What sort of issues, John, are we raising issues about? Also, representation. But housing is a core issue. But immigration, of course, is the big one. The two pillars of our party are to leave the United Nations Refugee Convention and stop all permanent settlement immigration. We've had more than enough. 12 million immigrants have come into this country since 1997. We've got to stop it. Otherwise, we're just going to be washed away by this tidal wave. So
just jump in. 42's come up with something here. Is it not separate organisation, Young Farmers Spring, that run the hustings? They are. But if we work with the Electoral Commission, then the Electoral Commission can say to these people, when you do have a hustings, you have to invite every candidate. You know, we can't be, it's just not democratic enough that they just get to pick who they come and who comes to organise. And this happened in Batley. It was a particular organisation that had a people. But I just want to say something. So in the 2019 general election in Oldham and in Deborah Abraham's ward, a girl who's doing quite well now in local counselling, she's called Amoy Lindor. She's not far right or anything. She's Caribbean, proper black Caribbean. And she had applied to run in the general election. And they had all her contact details. And when they had a hustings, they never invited her. You know what I mean? And she turned up at the hustings and did a little live stream, said, they've not invited me. They've got my number. I've never changed it. They've definitely got my number because they've contacted me half a dozen times, people around the council and that. But they never invited her to the hustings. And she's not far right or anything like that. She's just an independent standing up because she thinks she can do better in Oldham. And how furious me. So what I've said it publicly, and I'm going to stick to it. When we have a general election in Oldham, if we do not, if they have hustings and they don't invite all the candidates, I'm going to shut them down. I'm going to shut them down. I'm going to turn up with 200 people and shut the stinking hustings down. And I'm going to continue to go like that. All the while, I'll be contacting the Electoral Commission, contacting the council, saying you have to invite everyone to the hustings. We've just left it to these stinking, rotten politicians thinking that we don't have to do nothing, but we have to stand up. And that's one of the things that I'm going to do when we have a general election in Oldham. So it can be changed, and we've got to. And also, I did get a bit of media in Oldham by the local community radio. They contacted me. They got me in for an interview. I did sport for 3 minutes. I mentioned the corrupt Ukraine war. I mentioned what they'd done during COVID and how they locked us down and all that lot. And they put it out on the Oldham Community Radio channel. You know what I mean? I said to the guy, you know, you're not going to like edit it or not. Listen, I'm not going to do that. He said, well, you know, my views might be considered to somebody to be like, when you say it doesn't matter. You're running in the elections. And what he said to me, he said, you've got the right to have media presence. And I went, how can you say that when they don't let people on the BBC? Well, the law it says that you can. So it's something I need to look into. And then when the media don't interview me, then I'm going to take them to court or challenge them and stuff like that. But, you know, it's something we have to look to in the future.
I don't give any credence, John, to these labels that they stick on people, such as far left, far right. These are people. We raise issues they want to cover over. They don't want to. They're pretending, right, that there's no threat to Britain through mass immigration. But the scale of mass immigration is totally undermining our culture, our safety, and our economy, and it should be raised and discussed. They want to say as well that all these woke issues about transgender and gay LGBT and all that should not be discussed. This is all about individual liberty. No, there are outcomes from this. It affects the family. It affects children. It affects people's mental health. They need to be discussed. Now, I've stood in many elections, stood for the English Democrats, police commissioner in Liverpool, got over 7,000 votes. I stood for the mayor twice, got over 2,000 votes, made an impact, you know. But the BBC did all they could to stop me getting on. They edited what I said. They excluded me from debates. It's just, they control the microphone. The only hope we have is the social media, that we can generate our own media, and that the legacy media can be kicked into touch. Even the hustings, we can get a following on social media, but we need to build up the party. The British people have got to get involved with the National Housing Party and with these smaller parties and start standing as candidates. Become politically active. That's the only way we're going to save our country. Well, if we don't, you're going to lose everything.
If we did have if we was running a member of parliament, what I would do in Oldham, I would call for a hustings. I'd get someone to call for a hustings, invite everyone. If they don't turn up, I will be still there. I'll do the hustings. I'll say, well, none of the others turned up. So what does that show you, members of the public? You know, what does that show you? That they won't turn up and have a hustings with me for whatever reason. Little things like that are going to make people not vote for the mainstream parties, but we've just got to keep up on it. For too many years, we've just left this to the politicians and haven't got involved. That's why they're all bred politicians who are in power. There is nobody like working class like us in power because we've left it to them. So it's partly our fault, but we're waking up now. So we have to push these issues. We have to keep pushing these issues. We have to challenge them. And that's something that, if you listen to what I said, these are the kind of things I want to do. Challenge the norm. I've already said in public meetings about voting fraud, political correctness. I've given the police crap and said they might as well all be sex offenders and gangsters. I've said this in public meetings. So I'm very high on the watch out for John list. You know, watch out for John. I'm very high on that list with everyone. With both me and Pat have been added by several mediocre Twitter people, you know, and stuff like that. I got added by Rebecca Jane a few months ago on Twitter. Started following me, obviously, because these people can see us and they see what we're doing. And, you know, if she thought I was so far right racist, she wouldn't have asked me. She wouldn't have followed me.
John, you've got to be very careful of using their labels, because they're just offensive labels to demonize and stigmatize people who want to speak.
Buzzwords.
Now, I see you in many ways, John, as the Donald Trump of Oldham. You're outspoken. You're outspoken. You won't be beaten down, and you won't give up. And you come back fighting, you know, and you have a lot of following, and people respect what you say because you speak the truth. Now, what Trump has got behind him is the MAGA army, the Make America Great Again army, of popular people who are organized. They attend the rallies, but they also have local meetings. They also have local organizations, and they campaign on local issues, and they have an effect in their own states. That's what we need in Britain. That's what the National Housing Party of the UK is about. We want to get local meetings, local organizations having an impact, and then we can have a broader impact, and we can have a national impact. But we've got to get involved. We can only really make an impact on the national stage when we have sufficient members. At the moment, we've got scores of members. We need hundreds and we need thousands of members. We're going to carry on. We're not going to give up the fight, just like Donald Trump. Doesn't matter what they throw against us. We're determined to carry on this fight because it's so important. It's so important that someone speaks up and speaks the truth about what has happened to this country and suggests remedies for the real problems. We have to stop permanent settlement immigration. There's no need for it now. We've had far too many coming in. This is about the destruction of our nation. Just as the Democrats had engaged in a revolution in America to destroy traditional America, we're facing the same globalist agenda here. We've got to rise up against it. This is not about being against anyone or hating anyone. It's about coming together as a people, as a community, and taking on the establishment who are imposing their agendas upon us. We didn't promote the woke agenda. We didn't call for our kids to be, you know, transitioned into another sex or to have all the sexual perversity pushed on them in schools. We didn't call for Christianity to be pushed out of our schools and traditional morals. No, we value what was traditional in this country. We value our heritage. We value our culture. We value our communities and our nation as it was. We do not want to see it destroyed. But the elite are not listening to us. They're listening to these globalist institutions and this big money of the likes of the Bill Gates and the George Soroses. The big money tells them what to do. And what they want is to undermine us, stop us asserting ourselves, stop us being active citizens, stop us being a real nation, just become playthings for the elite, the global elite. They can push us around then, you see, once they weaken us and undermine our nationhood. So we've got to fight back, guys. We've got to find it in our heart and in our soul to stand up again. Just as Donald Trump is leading the populist movement in America, we've got to lead a populist rebellion in Britain. And we're not alone, because it's happening also in Germany, in Italy, in France, in Spain, across Europe. And of course, we've got to focus on this, the Ukraine war. It's not Biden's losing that war. America's losing the war. They're losing the grip on the world, because when the Americans go to the world now, and we're seeing in this in Africa, say we want to push this woke agenda, the Africans go, whoa, we don't want no woke agenda in Africa. We don't want no LGBT and transsexuals, and we don't want none of this climate change nonsense, all this net zero and green politics. They're just fleecing us, just an excuse to tax us. There is no, we have no effect on the global climate. Just, I mean, don't believe any of the hype. We have no effect, and they have no excuse to tax us. It will make no difference. We have weather in Britain, and it changes from day to day. We can no more affect the temperature than we can affect the wind. And I tell you that because I've got a qualification in meteorology, and I know it's all utter nonsense. But the madness of these global elites is they push these agendas upon us. They're all false, but they're about undermining us and destroying us. And ultimately, they want to bring in more and more people from Asia, Africa, the Middle East, everywhere, and replace us as a people, destroy our nation. This is what's happening, replacement. We have to stand up. If we want a future for ourselves and our children, a decent future, we've got to fight back. John, you're muted there. Do you want to say something?
Bobby Crush, what's up? What do you mean? What was the time out for?
Well, you left for a bit, John, but that's what, you know.
I had a phone call and I've got my mum to deal with. Let's just say that. And I've had a nightmare couple of days. So it's just
He's a busy man as our John. He's here, there, and everywhere. He was on streams last night. He streams the night before. He's leading this party from the front. He's doing a great job. And John, I take my hat off to you, mate. I know you've got your cap on there, but I'll take my cap off to you. So you're doing a great job, John. And you're on here tonight, and we'll have our Bible study tomorrow. And you know, he's going, John. He lives it, you know. He lives it, and he's making a great contribution. And he's a true patriot, you know.
I see what the issue was. He got timed out by Martin. Sorry about that, Bob. He did complain. You know, there is a lot of houses in England for the English, but again, a lot of them properties are owned by people abroad and stuff like that. And the kind of houses we have in the UK are not, they're old. If you come to Oldham, the tourist houses are over 100-year old. And they're not decent enough. They're not big enough. And another thing is, we have got a lot of houses, but the kind of families we have now are too big for these houses that we've got. So, and in Oldham, they're building houses
like
with
families. 5
rooms and stuff like that. Wow. So there is a big issue there. But
John, there's a question with the population. Because in 1979, the population was only 58 million. It's now 72 million.
Yeah.
And mass immigration has mean that the demand for housing now is insatiable. And we're finding a lot of people are being pushed out. They can't get homes. And the price of renting in the private sector has gone through the roof. Just crisis after crisis, John. But no one is standing up for Britain. No one's fighting our corner. No one's fighting for the British people. No one's taking responsibility for the future of our nation. Labour are a waste of time. The Tories are a waste of time. They're just doing the bidding of these globalist elites. We don't want any more immigration. We don't want any more of these refugees. We don't want any more of this money going into the Ukrainian war or going to foreign aid or going to the gimme grants, you know, the immigrants coming in, getting benefits upon benefits. We've got to look after our own, John. We've got to put our own first. This was Trump's agenda in America. Put America first. We've got to put it. It's only natural that you put your own people first. It's like a father. He puts his own family first. He doesn't save every family in the world because we can't do that. Just bleeding us dry. We're trillions in debt. We can't even finance our debt. This is the long-term problem of the West now. The West has got stupendous amount of debt, gargantuan amount, trillions upon trillions, and it's going to drain our countries because with interest rates going up, that debt gets more and more expensive. Everyone's being hit now. The cost of living crisis, it's not going away. They're still putting interest rates up. Inflation is still there in the system. There's hard days ahead, and we need a party that's going to come out and fight our corner. And this is what the National Housing Party of the UK is all about.
Dave 101, I got ejected from Hustings by police for asking the questions. Martin, Hustings is when you've got a general election going on and they want to talk to the members of the public and the old candidates get invited, and that's a Hustings. I've been to a major Hustings in Cheetham Hill 2019. There was Hustings in Batley. I never got to them, but there was Hustings in Batley as well a couple of years ago. So I'm very well aware. But we need to, as members of the public, we need to get out more and ask these difficult questions because we haven't done. we've left someone else to do it, or we don't do it. And you know, the police, if they're going to think they're going to kick me out for asking a question, they've got another thing coming. It's just not going to work. It's not going to work. And again, if they don't invite people in Oldham to these hustings, all the candidates, because there's lots of independents running, then we're going to absolutely shut down the hustings. You know what I mean? I don't care. We'll shut them down and all we have to do is turn up with 200 people. That will shut the hustings down.
It's not just about people having a say, John. We want people to get involved and campaign and stand, become politically active. That's why we found the National Housing Party. We're a registered political party. We're fighting local elections up and down the country, from Gloucester to London to Leicester to Liverpool, well, to the Wirral, in Oldham, Manchester. We're fighting elections all over the country. We need more candidates. We need more campaigners. We need more funds. It all costs money.
Thank you,
we're a party on a roll. John, and do you want to make a final plea, John, because we've got to go now?
Right, come on, guys, please support our group. We've got a lot of links in the chat. Put a Dodybot links in. On Thursday, I'm actually going to be into having a stream with Dion Drayson about the 98-year-old who was kicked out of his house, D-Day war veteran, who the PTSD camp are trying to help out. I'll put the article up for you in StreamYard. He's been in the papers. They've kicked him out and he's in a hostel. And he's 98 years old. He obviously hasn't got many years left. But Joe and Dion want to help him out. So I've set a stream up for Thursday. We've got a donor box on it. I've donated the first donation, but we're going to try and get this guy some money. They've already sent him a couple of £100, but I'll get Dion on and we'll be talking about that. Also, don't forget, join our social media, look through all our links, and obviously donate to us. As a lot of you might not know, at the moment we've raised enough money for 10,000 recruitment leaflets that will be going out in the next few weeks. But obviously we're going to need more for leaflets and stuff like that. Our recruitment leaflet's really good. We've had a lot of good praise, even from the left, on that leaflet. So please donate to us, follow us on our social media, watch out for our streams. It's our Bible class tomorrow. If anybody's interested, you'd have to email us. On the bottom one, the admin, you can email us to the admin at nationalhousingparty.uk if you fancy coming on Bible class. I'm not a practicing Christian, but I do attend it quite regular. And it is good when you can hear people's own personal stories. It's really touching, and the stuff we talk about. But yeah, that's all tomorrow for the Bible study. Thursday, I'll be doing a stream with Dion about Alfred, the 98-year-old World War II veteran. But thank you to everyone in the chat for being active. Pardon?
We'll just finish on this, right? We want people, as far as they can, to promote the party on social media. We're going to relaunch the party again and get more members on board. This is the point. We have to keep building this party. It's going to be crucial in the years ahead. Now, I want to just finish on the Trump issue. Trump, this is what I believe what will happen in the future. Trump will survive these trials. He will survive these accusations. He will stand in the presidential election. He will win. And it'll be like Prince Charming arriving in the White House. There is hope, and there is hope for a better future. So good night, folks. Good night, John.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. And thank you to everyone in the chat who were on. I've seen Peter Smith, Serena, Joker AI 42, very interactive there. Thank you, Tic Tac as well. Sorry about that, Bobby Crush. Martin getting a bit overworking on his admin duties. I don't really have too many active admins, so if you'd like to be an admin, if you let me know next time when you come on, I'll make you up. But I'm gonna start needing more active admins. I think Craig not an active admin. No, right. Let's get Crags on. Crags, you're a mod. Yeah. So Thursday, 7 p.m., Dion Drayson talking about Alfred, 98-year-old World War II veteran who was evicted from his home, and he's in a hostel. And for his last few years, he likes to go to church and stuff like that, and he wants to do it. Dion and Joe, Dion's already been to visit him, and they've already sent him money. But they've done a GoFundMe to try and raise a bit more money for him. But it's been in the papers, and I think it's important that somebody like that should get well looked after. Not like we're giving all our money away to people who are illegal immigrants and putting them in top hotels and everything on tap for them. This guy's fought for us, man. 98 years old, whether you believe in war or not, he's nearly 100 years old, and we should be looking after him just like I look after my mum. But thank you very much, everyone, for coming on tonight, and we'll catch you on Thursday at 7 p.m. or next week, Tuesday at 7 p.m. Thank you very much.